Can't walk down a sidewalk in Chicago, get hit over the head with a baseball bat from behind and say, gee, we live in a wonderful place. I'm calling for the death penalty for drug dealers and human traffickers, which will, upon its passage, reduce drug distribution and crime the first day by 75%. Crime will go down. Some of us have horrible children. Do you have any horrible children? Does anybody have like a child where you really are not going to leave your farm? Any farmers? We are a nation where fentanyl and all other forms of illegal drugs are easier to get than formula for our beautiful little babies. Your favorite president got screwed.
My. We all know where this is going. So Trump's rally in Iowa comes on the heels of a potential announcement that he is in fact going to run for president again in 2024. No surprise there. He's been teasing that for quite a while. Take a look at this headline. Trump hasn't announced a 2024 bid, but he's acting like he's running. The former president is holding a rally in Iowa and taking swipes at likely primary rivals, while his super PAC is running ads attacking Biden. Oh my God, I'm telling you, this is a sigh moment. It really is. So we can't imagine that those events, I mean, they're so hate-filled. He is inducing folks again. He's motivating folks. The base instincts of his followers, that is what he pulls up and pulls out. And Trump is hoping to ride a Republican win, a Republican wave on next Tuesday. That remains to be seen. And it's not looking good right now for Democrats, especially in the House. Mike?
Yeah, I think that the way that he's speaking kind of does give me an indication that he will be announcing very soon. Because if you watch some of his rallies over the summer, and you shouldn't because it'll rot your brain, but if you watch it, he was just more casual. He would just kind of BS, talk about random things, talk about himself. But now he's actually trotting out these right-wing talking points, really important talking points for the GOP. I saw this graph. I can't remember who produced it, but basically it showed as of September, the mentions of crime, according to Fox News, increased drastically. And that's because whenever we get closer to elections, that's when the GOP begins to fearmonger about crime, about immigration, about drugs. And so he's doing what he feels he needs to do to help Republicans. And I think this is all kind of leading up to him inevitably announcing that he's going to run again. And I'm honestly dreading it. It's something that we're all expecting, but just to see him more present again is not something that I look forward to, because even if he's always kind of been around, just getting a little bit of a break from him and all of that hate and vitriol and just stupidity was kind of nice. But he's going to be back in the headlines again. And Trump is somebody who drives headlines, love him or hate him. He sets the agenda. He's able to monopolize political discourse. So the media will once again be obsessed with him. And I think, there's reasons to cover him. But it's just the thought, honestly, is exhausting, because think about this. We're all probably fatigued a little bit from the election. I know I'm just seeing all the signs when I drive around. It's just like, oh, my God, please let this be over. But to just get right back into election mode within a couple of months, if not weeks, if he announces soon, and see the GOP campaign, it's so exhausting at this moment. And that's all I feel is fatigue, honestly. Like when I see Donald Trump, before I used to feel, rage and irritation, but now I just feel exasperated whenever I see him speak. I'm just so over it.
Yeah, he definitely drains. I mean, it is exhausting. I was thinking that even before you said it, that was the word that came to mind for me. Just he zaps rather life from folks. That's what he does. If you're not one of his minions, he definitely zaps our energy. We're gonna put up this graph because Democrats need to get it together. Tuesday is almost here, and they got this weekend and Monday. But how the Senate forecast has changed. See how each party's forecasted seat total and changes of control in the Senate have changed over time. The forecast updates at least once a day, and whenever we get a new poll, and that's coming from 538. Earlier in the year, everybody thought that the Democrats pretty much had this, if not totally sold up, there was enough of a gap between them and Republicans to have a little comfort. But now, as the months have ticked on, it is patently clear that Democrats have lost a lot of ground. We want to put up another graph for you to respond to. So cable news weekday interviews of U.S. Senate candidates, and we do see that their coverage of Republicans is much higher than their coverage of the Democrats. We saw that happen for Trump when he ran in 2016. I mean, he received billions, at least over $1 billion worth of what we would call earned media. And media does drive what people think, especially if you are tuned in to any of these networks 24/7. It's a steady diet of news. I mean, you are being inundated on a regular basis, and it does have an impact, right?
Yeah, I think that what we're seeing with regard to that graph is the difference between the Democratic Party establishment and the Republican establishment is that the media apparatus like Fox News, OAN, those for the most part, maybe not like officially, but unofficially are inextricably linked. So Fox News views themselves as the campaign arm of the Republican Party as well, whereas MSNBC certainly they side with the Democratic Party and they try to set the agenda and have on more Democrats, but I don't think that they view themselves as dependent. They're more independent, whereas Fox News and the Republican Party is more linked. So when it's election season, they get into gear like that. They know what they need to do to deliver for the Republican Party. And one thing that's interesting is that the talking points are all synced up. When one Republican says something, you hear it on Fox News, you hear it on OAN, you hear them all say the same thing in unison. Whereas with Democrats, if you see one Democrat make a good point, you usually don't hear that again unless it's from the same Democrat. So there's no cohesion there with the message. And I think that if there's no cohesion, that makes it more difficult for it to land. Because the thing about voters is in order for them to understand something, you've got to repeat it again and again and again. It's a matter of memorization. So I think that if Democrats, they all had a message that they said in unison, a pro-working class message in the same way that the Republicans have a fear-mongering message, crime, inflation, fentanyl, and Halloween candy, whatever, then I think that would really behoove them. But the problem is that it's so isolated. Like I've been giving credit to Biden here and there, which is hard for me to do, by the way, as a leftist, but I've been giving him credit because he's been talking about the ways in which Republicans want to cut Social Security. I think he's been doing a good job at hammering them for going after student debt relief, but you don't really see that. You see different types of campaigns being run by Democrats, and I understand that that the message that resonates in California might not resonate in Ohio. So sure, you have to tweak it. But at the end of the day, there has to be some cohesion, and there's just not a lot of cohesion with the Democratic Party. And I think that what really benefited them, aside from outrage over the Supreme Court overturning Roe v. Wade, was the cohesion. Everyone in unison was just angry about abortion. We were talking about liberty for women. We were talking about the ways in which this is going to harm working class women, women of color. And then the anger died down, and then the GOP seized on that. So,
Mike, they didn't take that moment and let it flow into a larger message in many ways. And I agree. I can't disagree with what you're saying. I mean, that outrage was there, that moment, it was palpable, but you got to do something with it because nature abhors a vacuum. Like you can't let that outrage just go. Never let a good crisis go to waste. And they should have taken that issue and wrapped it around economics. But instead, for a while, Mike, they pretended like just abortion, just overturning Roe was going to be enough. And I think it's too little too late. They kind of got it now, but hey, Tuesday is right around the corner. What are your thoughts about? And I agree with you. Look, the president is saying those things. I think he should go deeper and say more. The speech that he just gave the other day, he stayed on democracy, which is Republicans are certainly a clear and present danger. But I wanted to see him take that economic message because that is people are feeling the pain. And poll after poll shows that the number one issue that people are concerned about, not that they're not concerned about democracy, but you got to show people how the democracy message fits into is very much a part of an economic message. So do you think it's too little too late?
Yeah, unfortunately, I do feel like it is a little bit too late. And I think what you're saying is absolutely spot on. They have to harness, that outrage, but they never do. And the thing about their message on democracy, it may be correct. The problem is that it's not going to resonate with everyone. There was a poll, I can't remember who conducted it, but it's a media headline. It said that 7 in 10 Republicans favor a strong economy to a functioning democracy. So when people prioritize the economy that much, and they think that Republicans are going to be the party that delivers on a strong economy and benefit them financially, personally, that's a hard message to compete with, especially how salient that is to them. So Democrats have got to adapt. That doesn't mean that you abandon the issue of abortion or you abandon democracy. It just means that you have this multifaceted message, which they really are unidimensional. You know, they have to be multidimensional. They have to be able to talk about a lot of things because voters, they have a lot of concerns, and the economy hasn't been something that the Democrats, in my opinion, has emphasized enough.
And it's hard, Mike, for neoliberals to put forth the requisite emotion when it comes to people's pain. We both understand that neo-fascism is a bigger threat in the short term, choke you out right away. And neoliberalism takes a little longer to choke you out. So we got to do something about neo-fascism. But it is because of neoliberalism that we find ourselves in this situation. This is not isolated. We got to do something about it. Yeah, the collective we must.